Welcome back, guys. In last session, we discussed about a few important objects, and don't worry, we spend very little time on each and every object, and we are going to spend a lot of time on that. For example, going forward, we'll be using the package again and again. In the same way, we'll be using connection managers and precedence constraints and so on. Whatever we discussed in last session. So please don't get scared. That was nothing. And let's start with our first exercise project. Okay. Before going to that, I would like to highlight the same point again. For any exercise project, the most important thing is connections. So without connections, nothing called exercise project, right? Nothing called ETL, at least I can say. No extraction and no load, then what's the use of T? If I don't have E and if I don't have L in the ETL, then what's the use? So for E and for L, I need connections. So that is why whenever you start a new project by going to File, New and Project here, you will find two templates related to integration services, and the first one is integration services connection project. So it will help you in setting the connections. I'll show you how it will make our work easy in defining the connections. Let me give some name. SSIS package. Don't give names like this. The name should tell what the package is meant for, or what is the functionality written in that particular package. The naming convention should be like that. The person who is experienced, who gets more experience, you can easily say that by seeing how he is coding and what kind of naming conventions and standards he is following in writing the code. So don't go for project 1, project 2, package 1, package 2. And I got a couple of screenshots from you guys when I asked you to prepare a document on import and export wizard. It's patterned, the naming convention. So start using giving proper names. Now I have selected integration services connection project wizard. So a wizard opens where wizard means nothing but the one which you will find whenever you click on any exe file, any installable file, then you will get one wizard. You will get the one which helps a layperson to finish or to install or to do a particular job. It will have a pure simple English and next most of the cases, and somewhere you need to select I accept or I decline or something like that, and finally it will give you the solution. Let me show you. First I am selecting SQL Server, or whatever you want, you can create all the connections. I've added a SQL Server connection, and now it is asking me to provide the server name and the remaining stuff. I'm giving localhost, and I'll go for Windows authentication, and I'll select AdventureWorks DW, and I set a connection here, a SQL Server connection. So if you design your if you design your SSIS project properly, the architect who designs the project properly, he should have a clear picture on where from where he is going to pull the data and to where he is going to move the data, push the data, I mean, and what are the connections he requires. So if he knows that very well, he can come to the connection manager's project first, and he can set whatever the connections he wants. Now I'm setting one flat file connection. Let me add it. So he will set all the connections required. Let's say sales file is the name I'm giving for this. And I think I have a file called sales data or something in the desktop. I'll go for this. This is already 160 MB in size. So let me select this. And what kind of first row, it's column. And let me remove the double quotes. And what else? I can set all the configurations. This is the not comma separator. I'll go for tab. Tab means it will give one tab space. Okay. Oops, there is already data in there. It's with comma separator. That's the problem. 1 second. Let me edit. I think I have given comma, right, for the file. Let me refresh. Okay, this is fine. Now I set one flat file connection system. And in the same way, if you want one Teradata connection, you can set the Teradata, but I don't have the connectivity. That option is not available. I have to install some drivers for that. It will be done by your admin guy. Okay. If your project demands Teradata connection, then you can write a mail saying that we need Teradata drivers, and Teradata drivers will be installed. In the same way, whatever you want, you can have it, or if it is already available, then you can make use of it. I've selected two connections, and here it is asking me what is your source connection and what is your destination connection. If I'm gonna use this as source, and if I'm gonna use this as destination too, few cases it will be source and few cases it will be destination. In the same way, I'm gonna use this as source as well as destination. Then let's assume I'm pushing data from this file, this database to this file, and from this file to another table in this database. That means this acts as source in the first case, and in second case this acts as destination. And in the first case it acts as destination, and in the second case it acts as source. Understood what I'm saying? Okay, I repeat. Let's say my intention is this is my AdventureWorks database and this is my flat file. I have two tables. Okay, this is one table and this is second table. My requirement is move the data from this file to this table to this file, and then move the same data after modifying, after making some changes, move the data to this table. This is very rare cases. Don't say who he might be a bloody guy who asks you to do it like this. Why don't you move the data? Why don't you move data from one table to another table? I'm just telling you an example. Okay. So in this case, this acts as a source, this data OLEDB connection, and this flat file acts as a destination. In the second case, this flat file acts as a source, but the same OLEDB connection acts as a SQL connection acts as a destination. So that is why you may need to, one connection may act as source as well as destination. That's why there is an option to select both. Now let me click on next. This is the wizard which is going to help in creating these connections. And if you see, the source is ready, the source for sales, the destination for sales. So this is what we have given, right? This is a data flow package. Already data flow means you know very well. It will have source E, and it will have destination L, and between transformation CTL. So with these connection project types, we will get extraction as well as load, but the transformation we need to do here. The same thing is written in a label here. If you see, next steps to configure each source, double click on the source, and here it is explained that what we need to do, okay, to indicate the data and so on, and configure blah blah blah. So like this, we'll come to know. I'll explain a lot about this when we start discussing about data flow. But here, what I am trying to explain is how to make use of the connections project template. So this just creates the source and destination based on whatever we have whatever we configure here. We say like I need an OLEDP and SQL connection, and I need a flat file connection, and my SQL connection should act as source as well as destination, and my flat file should act as source and destination. So it created the source. You can see this is source, and it created the destination. It created the source, the outgoing one. That means pulling data from here. The incoming arrow mark, that means it is destination. So if you see, if you drag a flat file, this will be just like the first one, like this, right? And if you drag a OLEDB, it will be like this. So it will help us, it will reduce a couple of steps for us. That's it. If you simply check the checkbox, it will create source and destination for you. That's the only advantage. A little bit extra burden on server, but less burden on the developer. If you are creating the sources, right? You are creating the connection managers, and you are just selecting source and destination. So it will automatically create a source and destination with those files. and you don't understand what is the source and destination until we start discussing about the data flow tab or data flow task in the control flow. So it will take some time. So till then, just um, try to get an idea what is the use, how to use the connections managers project. That's it. Okay. So now, we are going to start discussing about SSIS projects, right? Before going to that, I've spent very little time on precedence constraints last time, right? Actually, the time was running and I closed it abruptly. So I would like to I'd like to explain a couple of things about precedence constraints, and then we can start discussing about each and every control flow item that is available here. First, to explain that, let me take a couple of tasks. You don't worry what this task and what is the use of this and so on. Why? Because until I explain each and every task, it will be new to you. But here my intention is to explain about the precedence constraint, so you don't concentrate on whatever the configurations that I'm going to give here. I'm just going to give some simple table. Okay. I've copied and I've pasted the same. And I'm going to paste it again. Okay. Now, this precedence constraint will tell you what is the workflow, how it has to flow, what is the starting point, and what is the next point, and when it has to go to the next point, and so on. Okay. Let me show you an example. First, if my intention is to execute this one, and then this, and then this, I've written a simple select statements to execute, and if I execute it, if you see, first this one is executed, and then the second one, and then the third one. The flow was like the way that I have said, the way that I have given the precedence constraints. And now let me show you the different constraints that we can set for one part. The first one is success, and second one is failure. If I set it to failure, only when the first one is failed, then only it will go to the second one. So there is a break. The first one is successful here. This is not failed, so it won't go to the second one. You understand now? And now let me do one thing. Let me make it fail intentionally. Okay, I'm gonna configure in such a way that I'm gonna fail this one. I don't think that this table is there. Let's see whether it executes or it is gonna fail. It failed there. You can see the red color. I'm trying to access a table which is not available in the database. So that is why it is failed, and it went to the next one. Why? Because I've configured in such a way, I've configured the precedence constraints in such a way that when the first task failed, then only go to the next task. Whatever I set is accomplished, right? So that is why it is going to the second task. Now the third case is on completion. It won't care whether it's failed or not, whether this particular task is completed or not. In that case, here, now it is failed but completed. So it went to the second one, and second one completed and going to the third one. Now it is failed, it is going to the second one. Now let me make it successful by giving a proper table name which is available in the database. Now the first one will be successful, and still it will go to the second one. Why? Because it is completed. So it cares whenever I've given it, whenever I configure it as completion, the constraint as completion, then it will check whether the task is completed or not. That's it. It won't check for anything else. Whether it is failed or not, successful or not, it won't care. It is completed or not. That is why we go for blue one. And tell me one scenario where you will go for completed task. Completed constraint, completed precedence constraint, where you will go for a completed one. Just tell an example, just think of it. Now, there will be sometimes while loading the table, if you know that if there is no table and if you are trying to access it, okay, see the table will be created or may be created, may not be created. If it is created, read the data, else don't read the data. But if it is successful or fail, it has to go to the next task. So that kind of scenarios, it is not dependent on success. It is dependent on whether the task is completed or not. Success or failure, but it has to go to the next step. Okay. So in that case, people will go for, and there are so many other cases also where we'll go for completion. So all these three are of equal importance. But to be frank, the success and failure will have highest importance than completion. This is the constraints, precedence constraints, constraint values we can set for this precedent. Now let me do one thing. There is one more option in setting. Now I've selected it as by default it will be constraint. That is why we have only completion or success or failure. You can go for another option, that is expression. Based on expression, do the job for me. Let's say date part of m comma get date is equal to 7. Let me check whether it is correct or not. What is okay? This is correct. It's saying it is correct. Let me try that. So what I have given is, if the current month is 7, then it will be successful. If the current month is not 7, then it will not go to the next one. Is the current month 7? The current month is 9. So it is stopped here. The condition, this is not dependent on either success or failure or completion. This is purely dependent on an expression, the expression that I have given. The expression that I have given is where date part of month of current date. I'll explain you this expression for the people who don't know SQL Server. This get date will give you current date, whatever the current system date, that is 29. In that I'm asking for month part. What is the month of the current date? So if it is 7, then it will be success, else it will be fail. It will be fail. So now I'm setting it to false and I'm re-executing it. Current month is 9, so it is going to the next one, and hence from there it is on success, right? So it is successful, so going to the third one. So this is based on expressions. Let's say some task will be there which needs to be run only on January, and few needs to run on only on February, few on what is that, March, few on April, something like that. Or some task needs to run on only on Thursdays or only on Fridays. So for all those kind of stuff, you can go for expression, right? And not only for that, there are so many other reasons why we need the expressions. And when we start discussing about actual task in the control flow, then we will cover all those stuff. This is just an example for an expression. You can go for any expression. Like if you are getting some value from the database, and if that value is equal to this value, then go, else don't go. Something like that. This is just an example for the expression. If you set the third one, that is expression and constraint, then both should be true. Now the second one is true. The first one I am setting it to failure. So the month should be 9, and also the task should fail. Then only it will go to the next one. So here the month is 9, but the task is not failed. That is why it is not going to the next one. Understood? What I'm going to do here is, I'll edit it. I'll set it to true, that is success, but I'll set the month to 8. What will happen now? The first one is successful, that is the task is successful, the constraint is successful, but the expression is failed. So this is and condition. So it will not go to the next one. So what we need exactly, the month is 9, and if it is success, then go to the next one. So this will be successful, so it will go to the next one. So this is constraint and expression option in precedence constraints. Now let's see the last one, either expression or constraint. So either this is true or this is true, it will go to the next one. Let me give month as 7. Will it go to the next one or not? I've given the constraint as success and expression as month is equal to 7. Will it go to the next one or not? By the time you answer, I will execute it. It will go to the next one. Why? Because it is OR condition, either that or this. The success is true. The first one is true. The value we set for a constraint is true. So it will go to the next one. If I set it to failure, and if I set the month to 9, now the first case will fail, but the second case will be successful. So again it will go to the next one. So this is about precedence constraints with expressions and constraints. Now, sorry, let me stop this. And this is about the precedence constraints with and, or, and so on. There is another option called multiple constraints. This is little tricky and little headache, and very rare cases people use this. Let me explain you that. Okay. Now the input, the workflow input for this execute SQL task is coming from execute SQL task as well as execute SQL task 1, right? So if I set any one thing, by default it will be unconditioned. That means if any one task is getting inputs from 2 points, inputs means whether it's success or failure, precedence from 2 points or 2 tasks, then and means both should be successful. Then only it will come. For example, now let me set it to false. Failure. So if this is failed and this is successful, then only it will come here. Let's see. Is it coming here? It is not coming. The reason is the input for this one is successful. True, that is fine. But this will execute only this one when this one is failed. Why? Because I have given condition like this. This should be true, this should be successful, and this should be failed. Right? So that is AND operator. Now, if you go for OR means if any one of those two is successful, either this or this should be failed. If this is failure, then that means this is valid. It will come here. If this is successful, then it will come here. Any one of these two happens, then the third one will be executed. You can see I have given OR conditions. This should be failed, but it is successful, so this is a fail case. You understood now? This is a fail case. Actually, I told to go to execute SQL task 2 only when this is failed. And I also said go to execute SQL task 2 when this is successful. That is why I know you people got confused. Let me know whether you understood or not. I will ask you guys, you just answer to the questions, okay? I'm giving unconditioned here. So multiple means nothing but the precedent, the task will get inputs, the precedence from multiple items. So this is the example. This guy is getting from two tasks, right? Precedence from 2 different tasks. Agree? So in that 2 tasks, what is specified here? One is failure. That means if execute SQL task is failed, then come here. Another one is if execute SQL task 1 is successful, then come here. Agree? Now, if I give AND condition in the multiple inputs, then both should be true. What is meant by both should be true in this case? This should be failed and this should be successful. Correct? Now, if this is successful and this is successful, does it mean both are true? Why? Because this should be failed to make it true. This should be successful to make it true. But if both are successful, then this will be failed and it will not come to the next task, that is task 2. Now understood why it is not coming here? Okay. Now if I want to make it success, if I want to make it reach the third one, what I have to do? This should be fail, right? If the first task is fail, okay, and let's see what for second task. Okay, this will go, why? Because the R condition here, this is valid expression, so it will go to this one. And if this is fail and this is successful, then it will come here, right? Let me execute it. The first one is fail, and it has the expression or constraint. So the expression is month is equal to 9, true. So it went here, and this is successful. So this is okay, and this is fail. This is also okay. So coming to the second one. Understood why that, how that AND condition works? I think this is better picture to understand, right? I don't need to know whether it will go to the second one or not. I have to write my functionality. If my requirement says whenever this is failed, go here, and whenever this is successful, then go here, like that. Okay, that is unconditioned. Both should be true. This should be true. That means this should be failed and this should be successful. Then only come here. As per the requirement, this is failing and this is becoming successful. So coming here. If I set this one also as success, when both are successful, this one as well as this one, then only come here means it won't come to the next one. Right? Why? Because it is failing. The condition is this should be success and this should be success. It is failing. And now, if I make it as a successful one by setting the correct query, then it will go to the next one, right? Both will be successful here if I execute it now, and it will give you the, it will go to the execute SQL task 2. Okay, this is for uncondition. Or condition means I don't care either that or this. Any one is successful, then I'm good. Any one is evaluated to true. Okay, evaluated to true. That means what is the condition for this one to become true? To evaluate it to true. That is, the previous task should be successful. What is the condition for this? The previous task should be successful. So this is success, and coming here in AND condition. In OR condition, if any one of this one is successful, then it will go to the next one. Either that or this. Either this one or this one. You can see this is failed, but still it is going to the second one. Why? Because I have given OR condition between this and this. If any one is evaluated to true, I'm good with that, then go to the execute SQL task 2. Okay. So this is how you will go for precedence constraints with multiple options. Now let me copy one more, and I can give from here also. And let me copy one more. Now all the conditions are same. This will fail, this will fail, this will fail. Now you can see everything failed, but it reached this point. Why? Because this is our condition. Either this is evaluated true, or this, or this, or this. And you can easily understand this dotted line means the condition is, multiple condition is set to OR. The multiple constraint condition is set to OR. So if anyone is evaluated to true, then it will be successful. It will go to the next one. And when you have so many things like this, which is not having precedence one, okay, then everything starts at a time. All these 4 starts at a time, and it will evaluate, and it will go based on the condition, either OR or AND, it will go to the next task. So this is about the precedence constraints, which we will be using again and again. That's why I explained a lot about this one. Any questions? That is about precedence constraints, and now we are going to discuss about containers. The containers, can you see containers here? On the left hand side. For each loop, for loop, and sequence container, and you'll have one more task host container, and there is one more container called package. There are 5 types of containers. The first container, first and foremost, or the highest level of container is package. So a container is nothing but a unit of work. A unit of work which contains so many tasks like this connected using precedence constraints. That simple definition I can give. So you'll have tasks in a container. Container means collection of tasks with some precedence constraints. Precedence constraints will explain how the work should flow. Okay, what is the workflow definition? And containers will hold that, the task as well as the task as well as the precedence constraints. So the whole work we take it as one unit, and we call a container as unit of work. Now the package is the first level of container. That is also a container which holds one unit of work. You will be having some 100 tasks in it and connected through precedence constraints. Okay, and that complete unit of work is called package. Package is a container, right? Now let's see the remaining types of containers. Let's start with for each loop container. Okay, for loop is basic model, but for each loop is more powerful than for loop container. While explaining this for loop container, I'm gonna use couple of other tasks like execute SQL, and I'm gonna use script task, and I'm gonna use file system task. I'm gonna use these 3 tasks, and don't get confused. I'm gonna explain you what the task will do, and you just concentrate. Your concentration should be only on this for loop container. You don't need to concentrate on the remaining stuff. Why? Because we will be spending a lot of time on these 3 tasks again. Okay. As I told you, a container will hold task and it will have precedence. Let's say, for example, like this. I'm just taking examples. Just drag it, drop it, and so on. This is for loop. Generally, what for each will do. What is for each means? The people who works on programming languages should be familiar with this. For each. What for each will do? Let's say I have 100 files in a folder. What this for each loop will do is it will go and it will go through all the files. If you define a for each for that, for each file or for each item in the collection. So it loops. It's not for 100 files. It will iterate for n number of files that are present in the folder. Let me explain you what are all the different types of enumerators are present. We call it as enumerate. It enumerates. Okay. Let me to set the properties. You need to double click on this or right click and click on edit. The first page is general page where you have name and description. I'll give it as loop through files. This is what I'm going to explain you first. So I'm going to loop through the files. Okay. And in the collections, I have to specify what kind of enumerator I'm going to use. There are so many different types of enumerators. The first one is for each file enumerator. That means loop through each and every file that is present. Okay. Enumerator means, I'm poor in English, but this is like looping through what you need to loop through. Giving some input to the server, to the SSIS server, saying that if I select file enumerator, it will go for files. It will provide all the configuration page related to a file enumerator. I'll search the dictionary and I'll give you the correct meaning, exact enumerator meaning. Okay. So if I select this file enumerator, it will show me the configurations for this file enumerator. Okay. So what is file enumerator will do? It will loop through files. So it needs a folder from where it has to get the files. Correct? So when I select a file enumerator, that means I'm asking the server to go through some files, a collection of files that I'm going to provide here. The list will be provided here, or the configuration files settings will be provided here. Loop through those files and do the job. That is what this file enumerator means. Now I need to select a folder from where I have to get the files. Let me go to desktop. I have a couple of files there, folders there. Let me take which one is having some files. Okay, I'll take this backup. It has a lot of data. So I've selected backup folder. And here the file type, you can give what file type you want to give. I don't know what file type I have. I think I have a JPEG files and so on. So if it is star.star, that means it will get all the files. If I give star.jpeg, it will get all JPEG files which starts with star. Sorry, which starts with any name. The file name can be anything, but the extension is JPEG. XLS, if I give, it will loop through all Excel files. If I give text, it will loop through all the text files. So any name, but the extension is what I am giving. And in the same way, you can go for any particular name if you want to get only that. Okay, and retrieve file name. So that means whenever it loops through, it will go through some file, right? You want full file name or name and extension only or name only. Actually, this is not showing. This is truncating somewhere. Problem with Windows 8 or something. I don't know. So full qualified name means it will give complete name like C colon D drive or C drive Rupesh folder something. It will give the full file name / 125.jpeg. That is the qualified name. Name and extension means 125.jpeg. Only the name and extension will be there. Name only means 123 will be there, or whatever the file name is. Whenever if it has 100 files, it will loop through all the 100 files. And if it is at first file, the name will be 123. Second file 234. Third file 3. Whatever the name the file is having, it will get only name. This is fully qualified means the complete path. I need complete path, so I'm taking it. And traverse for subfolders means if there is any folder inside it, it will go through that also. I don't want, there are so many files already. I don't know how much time it is going to take. So I'm just I'm checking that. Why? Because I don't need it now. The third thing is variable mapping. This is very important. The variable mapping will help you. You will be getting a name, right? You will be getting a qualified name or name and extension or name that needs to be moved to somewhere. You are getting name. So if you get the name, you have to assign it to some variable so that you can make use of it. Right? I'll show you where we are going to make use of it. So I need a variable. I'm defining a variable at a package scope. I hope you know what is the scope, package scope. I'm setting the package scope. And the name of the variable is path. And the value I'm giving it as nothing. And I'm not making it as read-only variable. I'm taking a string variable. And the string variable, let this index be 0. It will be 0 only. So what it will do now is, it will loop through each and every file in this folder and it will get the full path of the file and it will assign to this particular folder. Sorry, particular variable. Let me show you now. Okay. Do you want to see whether it is giving the full path or not? I can show you by taking a script task. You don't worry much. I am just using the script task to publish that, to print that variable, whether it is coming correctly or not. I'm taking path. You don't worry about this, guys. How to configure? We need a lot of time to spend on this. Okay, I'll explain this. So I'm just writing some C# code. For people who have good knowledge on C# can understand, I think. So I have written one simple line of code. What it will do is it will take the whatever the value that is assigned to this path variable, and it will publish it, or it will show a message box. Okay, it will show you to the it will show to everyone in a message box as an output. So what it will do is this loop will loop through each and every file that is present in this particular backup folder, and it will get the fully qualified name, and it will assign the name to path variable. And this path variable, when once it loop one time, it will execute whatever it is there inside. And second time loop, it will execute this. Third time loop, it will execute this. Fourth time loop, it will execute this. Let me execute this one now. So it executed. The first file name is C user through page desktop backup image 001.jpg. If I click on OK, it will go for second iteration. Okay, and it will go and get the second one. Can you see it is becoming 002? Why? Because it iterated second time, third time, fourth time, fifth, sixth, seventh, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. How many files are there? That many times it is looping now. You understand what's happening? So this script task, I have written the functionality to show whatever the value it is getting, whatever the looping value, it is looping to files, right? It is getting the fully qualified name that I am assigning to the variable. This script task I am using just to show what variable is at current position, at current loop. See, it is looping it, and it has some thousands of items, and I'm stopping it. So now you understood what this file enumerator will do. It will go through all the files, and it will get the fully qualified name, and we just assign it to variable to make use of it in future. I mean, in future means in next task. Now, my intention is, what is my intention? To move the files that are present in that folder to some other folder. That is my intention, right? That is what I thought of doing. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to disable it. That means it won't execute. Right click and disable. You can disable anything. Even I can disable it, but I'm not going to do that. I need it. So this task is of no use now. I disabled it and I kept it aside. Now I'm taking file system task. So this file system task will help me in moving the file names. If I give the file name to this, it will move, or it will copy. Whatever I say, I will do that. It will do that. But it needs file name. What file it has to move. Okay. So this looping part, what it will do? It will get the file name, right? It will loop and it will get the file name into the variable. And this guy will take that variable and it will place it to some other folder. I'll show you how. Where we have the source, from where the file has to be moved. Which file has to be moved? The source needs to be set, and the source is a variable and the value is present in that variable. The path of the source file is available in the variable, so that is in user path. Now you understood what is source here. Now I set the source, and this is source path variable is true means I'm not giving the path here, I'm giving the path in a variable, and this is that variable. That is the meaning. Is destination path a variable? No, I'm not passing it variable. I'm just gonna give the destination here. New connection. Is it existing file or create folder? I have to create a folder. I don't have new folder. I'll create it. So make a folder. I'll name it as test, and I am selecting it as this. Click on OK. Now this is the destination I have set. That means I created a folder connection, and you can see the folder connection set here. Test. Okay. Now what operation I have to do? Copy file or copy directory, create directory, delete file, and so on. My intention is to copy file from source to destination. So what it will do is it will take whatever the file that is available in the path variable, and it will copy it to this destination, right? Let's see. This is the folder, right? Now if I click on OK, what it is, one sec. Okay, this source and destination. Where is the path variable? I need to set some dummy value by default. Why? Because I'm using it as source, right? So while giving source, it should have some value. Now it should go, okay, fine. Now if I execute it, first time it is getting files now. Can you see here the files are increasing, like it is copying files from source to destination. Can you see? So what I have done is I'm looping through each and every file using for each loop, and passing the path where that file is having that path to a variable, and using that variable as source to the file transfer task, and setting the destination as this folder, and I'm asking the server to copy the files from source to destination. Is it clear now? So it will be going for a long time. Why? Because I have so many files. Let's see how much time it is gonna take. I provided some dummy value into the variable test, right? You have seen that. Sorry, dummy variable path. I have provided a value test. Why? Because I'm using it as source in this one. If you see, I'm using it as source, and while executing it, pre-validation check will be there. It will validate whether everything is having proper values or not. So if you have the pre-validation, then it will fail. That is why I set some value. It asked me to set some value, and you can set some junk. Why? Because it is not going to use it. It is not going to use it. If it is going to use it, then it will create a problem. It will create a problem. First time, whenever it is going to copy the file, it will get a new value, right? Is it going to use test? Test will not be available. Why? Because by the time it hit this, the path value will be assigned with the loop value. Whatever the loop path, what it is going to get, whatever the path it is going to get using the for each loop, it will be set to the path variable. It is not going to use the default value, whatever you are going to set in this particular case. That's why I have set it to default path value. Sorry, default some junk value. Okay. Now it's still going on. There are so many files. I copied all the iPhone photos, so that is why the backup is, the folder is huge. It's still going. Let me stop it. Okay. So this is how you can configure it, and you can try it. You can try the same. It will be very interesting when you try it at home. Okay. Now what will happen if I re-execute it? Or let me show you one thing. I'm deleting this. Okay, I'm deleting the default value, and there is an option called delay validation. I'm setting it to true. Okay, now if I execute this, it is executing. It is not creating problem, but it is throwing error. Earlier it was throwing value saying that the variable value should not be blank, right? Now it is not throwing that value, throwing that error. Why? Because I set the delay validation property to true. That means don't validate. Wait for the value to be assigned to that variable. I'm making sure that the value will be assigned to the variable. Don't do any pre-checks. Okay, the delay validation property to be set to true for that. Now what is this error? This error is because it is trying to copy the file which is already there. If you see this this test folder, it is already there. The 001 is already available. That is why it is throwing error. How to overcome this? If you go to this file system task, there is an option called overwrite destination. Okay, if you set it to true, it will overwrite the file if it already exists. Okay, and to make the value blank, even though it is blank, if you want to delay this, then you need to set this value to true. That is the delay validation to true. Now let me execute it. Now you can see it is executing. Green, 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 green. Every time it will delete and recreate. It will delete and recreate. It will overwrite, sorry. That means it's delete and write, right? Something like that. So this is how you can make use of overwrite destination option to delete and or to update the existing value if any exists. So it will continue to go for 5 minutes. I don't want to happen. So I'm stopping it. Now my question is, I'm getting the full path, so fine, it is fine. What if I get only name and extension? Name and extension will be used only in that case where you will have already, you will have the path in another variable. You understood, right? Let's say full path, and I'll set it as string. Let me increase this space. String. Here I'll have the complete path, like C, Rupesh, test, some folder path, and this variable will get only what is that? It will get only the value, the path and the extension. Sorry, the name and the extension. And you will be using third file to make use of. You will concatenate this with this to get the full path. So when you have the only name and extension, then you will define one more variable where you will hold the full path. Okay. So this is how you will handle that kind of scenario. So that's it for today's session, guys, and you just practice it, and next session I'm going to cover the expressions part here in particularly, what's the use of these expressions, and I will cover in detail about this one, as well as execute SQL task, as well as script task, and the remaining enumerators in this for each loop. Okay, that is also very interesting class. Okay. And the assignment for today, it's I want document on for each loop, moving file. The same thing whatever I have explained today. I want one clear, complete document on this, and I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different documents on one using precedence with constants and different values, success, failure, and so on. Second document, precedence with expression, and third one, precedence with expression and constant. Fourth one, expression or constant, and finally multiple and multiple or. Okay, so those 6 documents, and this one 7 documents, that 2. And Pallavi, I mean, among all the documents I got last time, Pallavi has done a good job. It was very good. I can share the document with you guys. So keep it up, Pallavi, and remaining guys, please do that. Try to prepare the document in the best way. Thank you very much. Catch you in next session. Have a nice weekend.